My name is Kevin Cottam and I'm a global nomad from Canada, but I live in a variety of outposts around the world. Singapore is one of them. The nomadic mindset is the movement of the mind. People may think that it means to move from place to find new pastures. It could mean that geographically. However, the nomadic mindset is really about the movement of the mind, keeping your ideas flowing, becoming agile, flexible, adaptable, and finding creative ideas, finding new pathways. Like, for example, this building is very nomadic in that you see the creativity that's gone through. And that creativity is part of the nomadic mindset. As a creator, you have to constantly find new thoughts, new ideas. And by being able to do that, you need to go into your mind and allow it to explode with thoughts. The whole sense of not just your mind, but also your senses have to become peaked. And by doing that, you become open and expansive to whatever might flow in.
You wrote a book called The Nomadic Mindset. What is the book about and why did you write it?
First of all, it is about ancient wisdom meets contemporary leadership today to find a new path forward. The premise for the book is that we've lost the plot, that we have become too narrow in our thinking and we need to expand. And the nomadic mindset is about expansion.
You did a lot of nomadic traveling for this book. Where did you go and who did you interview?
I think that one of the things that was exciting was that I went to Mongolia to spend some time in a yurt with some nomads. And Fredrik, you came along, so it was really an amazing time. But also I went to Kenya and spent time with the Maasai in the Masai Mara in southern Kenya. And then I also went to southern Morocco in the Sahara with Berbers and other nomadic tribes there. And I can tell you, just learning about what it is, the purity of nomadic thinking and beliefs is really what I think is extremely valuable for us today. What are those behaviors? And that's what I've taken from there. And how do we adapt it to today in our living? And then I also experienced a lot of conversations and interviews with executives. And putting together was a little bit of a challenge, putting it together, I have to say. It took a lot of work in writing that, and how do you combine ancient wisdom and contemporary thought? One of the life lessons that I learned from the Maasai, for example, is we are migrating. Where we are is not where we are evolving. And I think that's a wonderful statement that was told to me by Benson, who is one of my Maasai brothers now. And he also said that as a warrior, to become a warrior, is that it's very important that we all come together. You cannot kill a lion alone. In Morocco, it was also very interesting because I found some beautiful statements there. And one of them is, the first cup of tea is as bitter as death, the second is as mild as life, and the third is as light as love. And so, if you take that as a metaphor, what does it mean? It can mean simply things are very difficult at first, they get a bit easier, and then it becomes natural afterwards. It can mean that. It can mean a variety of different things, but for each person. But these are life lessons.
Some might argue that a nomad is like behind the times, or it's old-fashioned, or too traditional, and we moved on. What's your answer? What's your reply to that?
Yeah, many people think that why would you think about nomads and emulating nomadic culture? I'm not saying that we go back and live in the desert. However, I think it's a great idea. But I'm saying that there are lessons to be learned. We have gotten so far off track of humanity and how we deal with humanity that they understand humanity because they are close to the earth. And I would like to say also that I think that they are the most interconnected beings that I have ever experienced. Why? Because they are interconnected to the sky, to the universe, to the people, to their emotions, to the ground, to the animals, to the climate, everything. And they realize if they do wrong to one thing, it's going to have a repercussion in something else. It is that whole interconnection, of which we talk about connection, but I think that's too small. That's too narrow. We need, as I learned in the wonderful quote that I learned in Mongolia from a wonderful urbanite young student, that nomads think vastly, act narrowly. And I went, whoa, this is a beautiful, beautiful thought. And what does it mean? I mean, it means a variety of things. Well, for nomads, it means we have to look very expansively at all the possibilities that can happen to us. We need to listen to the environment if we're going to save our lives. We need to be very vast. We cannot just be hunkered down on one thing and not see something else in the bigger picture. What does it mean for creativity? For example, if you live in a very sort of narrow world, this is thinking narrowly, there's not much space for you in your mind, your body, your soul, to see other possibilities or opportunities. And what I like to also think about that is signposts of opportunities, is that creativity is all about signposts. Is, for example, seeing something, what is that? How can I see it from multiple angles and possibilities? That's thinking vastly. That is what creativity is all about.
And that is very much also about taking a step back, right? Or looking further, the vastness of it. So how would you define, or how would they define vastness?
They relate most of it to their environment, because their environment is vast. So they're able to hold that space of the width and expansion, and being able to rapidly make a decision and go into a narrow place. Their feeling of expansiveness is internal as well as external. Act narrowly, what does that mean? Well, for the nomads, it means that they're able to, with all of this information on the expansion, they talk about it as rapidly focusing in and making a decision. So they don't meander and walk around, and that's all done in that expansion. But then when they make a decision, it's fast. Because if you think about it in many ways, is that when they have to move, there's not a lot of time to think about it. The animals will tell them when to move, as they say, and then they have to be ready. And so then they have to make a decision on what time that is, because that means that the animals are on the move. They see the sense of the change in season. They then are also, there's not enough food on the ground for them anymore. They need to eat. And that is the mirror of what we are.
It's the message for me when I'm trying to develop my creativity then. How can I think about this from a creativity point of view?
For example, if you wake up in the morning and you start looking at your phone, and you look through Facebook, and you look through all of the different aspects, what you're doing is not necessarily widening your mindset. You're actually narrowing it down into this small phone, and you're actually getting a little bit more shaky, maybe inside, more nervous, more variety of emotions are starting to come up because they start digging up inside of you. The point is to leave that technology for at least an hour in the morning, go wide, think about either meditating or reading something of inspirational or journaling, having a conversation, just having a coffee or whatever it is, just taking some time for yourself. That will expand you before you have to start moving in. So that is one way that you can look at this in a very practical level. I think the big message here is for the nomadic mindset is you must think vastly and act narrowly. That's it. Think vastly, act narrowly. Think vastly, act narrowly.
Think vastly, act narrowly.